go. Let's start streaming. Let's start getting this Wednesday night party happening because I'm in the studio now and I'm getting ready to make my way to Kansas City, the home of the defending Super Bowl champions, Kansas City Chiefs. That's right. I'm going to be there at Arrowhead Stadium. I'm going to be there in the stands as Baker Mayfield and the Browns attempt to do something extremely difficult, and that is enter the home of the defending Super Bowl champions, the Super Bowl 54 champion, Kansas City Chiefs. And I'm excited because I've been a Kansas City Chiefs fan for over 30 years. Yes, I'm over 30 years old. And I have never, ever been there. Thinking of all the places that I've been to, never having been to Kansas City. It's kind of crazy, a lot of people would think, because they are like, you go to every place, which I do. I kind of do go everywhere. Even in years like this one where I really didn't get to travel as much. I still got to go to a lot of places. All right, so it sounds like my music is a little loud, so I'm gonna bring that down. This one where I really didn't get to travel because I'm also using some new technologies. We're gonna enter 2021 with a little bit more, let's say, firepower when it comes to the world of digital technology. As you see right now, I'm hoping this video, I'm not gonna stream in 4K, like that would be extreme. Like the NFL only like does that thing on the field where they show like, I don't know, whether it's like 120 frames per second, that crazy camera. That would be cool, but this is more of a let's get you in HD at least so you can see me in HD, and you can hear me well if you're listening on the podcast right now. We are officially now on Pandora, so if you listen to Pandora, just ask for the Hawaii Sports Fans channel, and I'm sure you'll hear the latest episode, or however Pandora works. But now on Pandora, on iHeart, on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, on podbean.com, on the Podbean app if you download it, or anywhere you get your podcasts, Google Podcasts as well, I believe. So the Hawaii Sports Fans channel are gonna be adding a lot more content, especially as we get this year going. I just had my little New Year's pick me up, as it is every year, from Christmas into New Year's into my birthday, January 6th. Last week, if you saw my birthday episode, I did it from my hammock in Mililani. And now I'm transcontinental. I'm making my way east to Kansas City, so I'm coming to you from the studio, the Hawaii Sports Fans Sports Cave. Sure, we'll call it that. You can see I'm trying to like decorate a little bit, so I'm like actually in this cave, and it does feel like that because I'm surrounded by all not only collectibles but memories of places that I've been, places I went with my family, places that inspire me, people that inspire me, my favorite players like Aaron Donald right here, who's about to take on the Green Bay Packers this weekend. But as we look forward to this week and all that we are anticipating in the world of UH football as well, because a big announcement was made, and I've been talking about this since the day the Aloha Stadium Authority said that they would indefinitely be suspending all events at Aloha Stadium. My first instinct was Ching Field, and that's what it is. And usually I'm right. I mean, if you watch this show, typically what I say here happens, but that's because probably no one is more obsessed with sports than I am, and also has the knowledge because I've worked in so many facets of sports. Not only am I going to a lot of games, but I'm an athlete. I've worked as an administrator, like I said. I've worked as a coach, played in college. So a lot of what we are looking at today are the symptoms or are the outcomes of issues that we had with the NCAA, with amateurism, with and now going into this pandemic and the bigger necessity to have that television revenue, because it's been counted on so much more. And even with that TV revenue, the UH Athletic Department is projected to have a $9 million deficit. So Ching Field seems to be the most obvious. You just spend the least amount of money, but they're going to have to put a lot into that as well. They're going to have to make it a party, and by them I mean the athletic department who's in charge of this, who's in charge of staging this event. This event must be really brilliant. Like, they really have to bring it when it comes to staging a show and game on campus, because it's not something that's been done before, obviously, and not even the Fighting Deans. I think they played in Mo'ilili, right? So I don't even think they played on campus. So this will be huge. A Division One FBS team who has really no facility yet on campus, but can create one, and we'll talk about that. But first, I'm going to talk about this James Harden trade, because just briefly, in the off season, we talk about basketball, we talk about soccer, we talk about baseball, we talk about football. The year of Hawaii sports fans is always a sports year, right? It's always that season of sports, and with the NBA season just kicking off again. And for me, I got to go to not this past year's, obviously the last NBA championship, the last trophy was handed out in a bubble in Orlando, so I wasn't able to be a part of that, but I got to be in Cleveland in 2018, and in 2019 be there in Oakland for the very last game at the Oakland Coliseum, and to see the Raptors and Kawhi Leonard shock the Warriors, who were without Klay Thompson and without Kevin Durant. And that was the last time we saw Kevin Durant in a Warriors uniform, and now here he is again. And I was excited about this trade when Kyrie and Kevin Durant went to the Nets. First of all, and I need to make this clear, especially as a fan, I am an NBA fan first. I am an NFL fan first. I am a fan of the games. I'm a fan of being in that arena and watching whoever's playing, and the atmosphere that comes with it, and the strategy that comes with the game, and the technique that comes with being a professional athlete, being a high-level athlete. That's what I love. So no matter the colors, no matter who's playing, right, I'm a fan of that game. I'm a fan because I want to be a part of that action. Even if I'm not playing, I'm no longer a player. I'm still an athlete, but I might no longer be a player. I might no longer have a jersey. But when you're a fan, you feel like you're just in a part of that game. You feel like you're a part of that atmosphere, and you feel like you can make a difference in the game as well. And if you ask anybody who's a fan of the Seahawks or the Chiefs or any of these stadiums that get super loud, they'll tell you for sure, indeed, the fans are a big part of the success of the team, especially the success of the team at home. And now with Kevin Durant moving over to the Nets, it's funny. I thought about when Kevin Durant went to the Warriors, was traded to the Warriors. I was in London. It was the day after I went to Wimbledon in 2016, right after the Brexit vote. I went to London. I got to see Serena Venus play in Wimbledon. Amazing tournament, one of the most amazing grounds of any sporting event in the world, Wimbledon. And I made a shed a tear as I drove my car on the other side of the road with my stick shift in the middle, and the clutch was still in the right, but very difficult thing to do. You got to really be good with that if you are planning to drive in the UK. But while I was there, on my way back, flying home through the airport, in London airport, I'm standing in line, and I just was like, what? I just remember almost dropping my phone. I was like, what? And this lady was like, whoa, what happened? And I was like, Kevin Durant is going to the Warriors. And she's like, oh. Actually, I knew about that already. So it was major news, even in London. But those kind of trades have a tendency, those groundbreaking trades, to have playoff implications. And definitely with the Nets. The Nets are about 500 now. It's so early in the season. The NBA season is so early. So I can't look at the records right now. Obviously, it's all going to be about the playoffs. It's going to be about how teams enter the playoffs and how they're doing then. But I think this is a huge trade. I think it's good for the NBA in general first, because of parity. And Kyrie obviously he hasn't been going to team functions, I guess, recently. So he could be MIA and may have caused this Harden trade to come over. But even if it is just Harden and Durant, I mean, this is not the Harden and Durant of OKC times. Can you imagine that? Harden, Durant, and Westbrook, right? If we go back and look at OKC teams, right? OKC drafting those 3 in a row. 3 MVPs. Yet, together, they weren't able to make it work. But Durant, watching him play now, even after his injury, he looks great. I just laugh thinking about when Kevin Durant was playing at Texas and he was a freshman. I was in college, and I remember watching with my teammates. We're like, wow, this guy he can challenge LeBron. He can go into the league. He's only 18, and now he's balding. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. To see athletes who you're older than start looking older too. But I love this for the NBA in general. I love this for the game of basketball. I think, last year, the way the season ended, obviously I'm LA oriented when it comes to all of the sports. So I want to see both the Lakers and Clippers be good. I want to see all the LA teams be good. Of course, for NBA, I want to see the Clippers be strong because I want to see two dominant teams in Los Angeles. And the Clippers are going to open a new arena in Inglewood right next to SoFi. And, I want to see like two traditional powers emerge right here and just a stone's throw away from me, if I could throw a stone really, really far, in Los Angeles. And I think that is the cool part. When you're a fan, you just want to be a part of that atmosphere. And being in an NBA arena, being around teams that are successful, that helps a lot. And I was very disappointed, obviously. I was disappointed in Lou Williams, disappointed in Paul George, and Kawhi Leonard, and Patrick Beverley, and Doc Rivers as to how the Clippers season ended last year. But for the Lakers to win, and to see them win it, and see LeBron get his title as a Laker, was gratifying as well. Too bad for Laker fans and Dodger fans, no parade. So that's something that is a huge part of celebrating a title, is having that parade. So it is unfortunate, but that's something that's really been fun for me as well, being on the main line. And people always ask me, like, a lot of my exuberance, a lot of my desire and passion for the sports started on my island, started in my home, started from being in Mililani, started from being a kid at the park playing basketball and thinking about my future as an athlete, but also my future as a traveler and where I could go. And I just thought about this today as I was working out, like thinking about how the canal behind the District Park gym where I would play basketball, I'd imagine it was like a canal that could take me to Venice or something. It was, it's like something that inspires you to go on to bigger and better places. And that's what Hawaii Sports Fans is, right? It's the expression of me and my desire to be an adventurer and to discover new places and to see new places. And at the end of the day, that starts with my NFL life, with my parents and my grandparents, my aunts and uncles, and all those into the game. And obviously going to the Pro Bowl was huge to me. So having gone to the Pro Bowl a lot as a youth, having gone to Pro Bowl events, that really inspired me to start this company, but also provided me such amazing memories. A lot of kids, that had NFL teams in their backyards probably never got to have. And that's something that I enjoy about the Pro Bowl, or did enjoy about the Pro Bowl for a long time. But another reason that I really enjoy the NFL is I just love everything a part of it. And that's why it's confusing, because people are like, wait, you always talk about the Chiefs, but then you talk about the Rams. And I do. So I've been around a Chiefs fan for a long time. 1989 Christian Okoye, Derek Thomas, Neil Smith. I mean, those are my favorite players. And Joe Montana, Marcus Allen, and going through the years, Tony Gonzalez, Priest Holmes, all my favorites. This has been a Chiefs. As a Chiefs fan, it was kind of like being a Hawaii football fan. It's just like you're just a fan of the game and of the team, and if they're successful, they're successful. If not, well, that's your team, and you chose it. So I was happy to be a Chiefs fan, and I still am, and even more now. I mean, Super Bowl 54 was amazing, and it was a long wait. But in 2016, and after I had started Hawaii Sports Fans and looked for ways that Hawaii Sports Fans can be more integrated into the football world as a player, maybe not on the field, but in the stands, and as somebody and as a brand, as a company that is on the forefront of things. And I always look at that, and myself and this company, Hawaii Sports Fans, is always being on the brink, always knowing the trends. And I think I've proven that even in the 9 months that I've been live streaming, I think a lot that I've had to say every week has either come to fruition or I've been right about. And I'm unapologetic about that. I started this given the fact that I couldn't go on tours and take people to trips, so I think I'm going to choose this camera and the software, and I'm just going to talk to you and develop this relationship with you all, but also share a lot of info that I've gotten along the way, and I think a lot of valuable info that very few travelers have gone down the roads that I have. Very few people that I know personally have been to 5 Super Bowls. And, everybody knows that is a once-in-a-lifetime thing. And for me to have gone to 5 of them, I don't take that lightly. But I also realize that, a lot of the experiences that I have, very few other people you could be able to go to and talk to about. And that's what makes this different. Makes me different, makes Hawaii Sports Fans different. And I'm very excited now with Hawaii Sports Fans as I start to reach out to some of you, and we start to get our juices flowing and getting ready for Hawaii football, because at the base of this is Hawaii football, and how excited I am as a fan to be of Hawaii football, and have always been, even if we weren't winning, even if we ended with a losing season. I remember being on the field. It's just funny now in 2017. I got to be on the field for the last game. So shout out to Nicole, shout out to Joyce Lau, Mike Lum, getting me on the field. And the last game with Amy, my friend Amy, who you'll probably see with me a lot in the front row. But that year was Rolo's worst year, actually. We only won 3 games. And I remember just being on the field after and being like, wow, this is such a fun season. Such a great season. That was the year I lost my grandmother. It was a reason that I'm the big fan that I am. But, it was huge for me to be able to just have that appreciation, regardless of the record. And you have to get to a point, I'd say, as a Hawaii football fans, as a fan of any sport, right, of any team, you're gonna need that passion. You're gonna be affected by what happens. Sorry, I finally got the comments up. Justin says Cave needs a sponsor. I totally agree with Justin. So if there's some sponsors out there, Justin says a cave needs a sponsor. I think this cave does need a sponsor as well. And maybe we'll be talking about that going down as we grow this show and we grow the reach that we have here as well at Hawaii Sports Fans. Kim says, safe travels, my friend. Thank you, Kim. I plan on making it to Missouri this weekend, I guess, by Saturday. So I'm not excited about the weather, but I'm definitely excited about the experience about being there. But let's talk about this Hawaii football conundrum that they're in, because it is still an issue. Right now, this is not easy. I'm going to reference, actually, some of my thoughts that I had. I think Stephen Tsai of the Honolulu Advertiser, who is also a contributor at Warrior Nation on Facebook, and I'm an admin there. So I feel like I know that I can just pull stuff from here, because everybody wants to have this platform, right, on Hawaii Sports Fans, and I want you all to be active. I think the best part about engaging with other fans is that I learn so much from other perspectives, and I think in the traditional world of where people are consuming media from mainstream sources or from traditional sources, you're not going to get the whole experience, and I think that's why I provided a very big value to this program and to Hawaii sports in general, and then my perspective and the places that I've been, the things that I've done, the jobs that I've had. Very few have tread the waters that I have gone across, and definitely in my time working in sports. So my goal is to share that with all of you. And so far I've been pretty right and pretty on point when it comes to the stadium situation. The Aloha Stadium situation, let's start at the very beginning, right? Aloha Stadium, run by the Stadium Authority, which is a state agency. So not run by University of Hawaii. That already makes it a hard situation. Very difficult, right? And you have to have if you are a tenant and you are the main tenant, yet you don't appear to have that strong of a relationship with the authority or with the agency that runs your stadium, you have incidents like these that happen. Like when a stadium authority makes an announcement to the surprise of its main tenant that they will not be holding any more events indefinitely. That right there is a failure on leadership on both sides, on the UH side and on the stadium authority side. I already knew there was an issue when I went to the EIS, the first EIS meeting last year in August 2019. One of the first EIS meetings, that's where they start taking, public, and I mean, as a state, was, developing this project, this new Aloha Stadium project. That was a general meeting that was held in Aloha Stadium for residents, so you have residents from around the area, Salt Lake, Halava, that came in to share concerns and talk about the stadium. I don't remember. There may have been people from UH. There may have been. They may have been there. They were not a part of the program. They are the main tenant. Whether Mr. Matlin or anyone else in the department or the president of the call, President Lassner, feels like they're overstepping themselves, they shouldn't. Because if you're the main tenant, de facto, this is your stadium. This is the Hawaii football stadium. And that's what it was made for. We know that. We know that that's why the governor in 1975, before I was born, we know that when the stadium opened, and in the late 60s and the 70s when it was being thought of and conceived, we knew that it had University of Hawaii football in mind, to grow University of Hawaii football into a Division I powerhouse, right? To stop playing college teams or high school teams, stop playing Pearl Harbor and McKinley, and start playing, University of Oregon and the University of Southern California. And that's what has happened. But naturally, over time, that same fervor for the team and that same desire to see the team grow, I don't see it. It's diminished. It's gone. And I feel like we've been on autopilot for a long time, especially when it comes to the state's responsibility toward the program. Obviously, a few years ago, so shout out to the legislature and Governor Ige. They did set aside dollars, additional dollars to the legislature to go directly to UH athletics, which is great. That's not enough, and it's not going to be enough this year. And this year, I don't see that happening, especially when state employees are about to be furloughed. So we are definitely in precarious times for the program. And when it comes to the stadium situation, I'm going to say two things. First of all, I already said it's both of their fault. That's not happening in Aloha Stadium next year. The handwriting was on the wall that this stadium was not going in the right direction. It's just shocking to me, honestly, that both the athletic department and the stadium authorities, their response to this whole situation is less than satisfactory, in my opinion. As a fan, as a taxpayer, just less than satisfactory. And I think that is disappointing because we need the opposite of that. We need enthusiasm. We need collaboration. We need lokahi. We need people coming together, laulima. We need things that make us who we are as Hawaiians, as local people, the strength of people coming together with a common goal. That's what we need right now. And it doesn't seem like there's a lot of disjointment between what the stadium authority sees and the state sees for the future of this facility and what the University of Hawaii sees. And that's why the university did put together a sternly written letter, way too late, by the way. Way too late. But I'm glad it's out there now, because they're the main tenant. It should be obvious from the beginning. And I've said this every time I go to another Mountain West stadium. Why am I more entertained at this stadium than I am at home at Aloha Stadium? That is a problem, because Aloha Stadium is one of the best stadiums, no doubt, in the Mountain West. You can poke holes on it, you can poke holes in it, but it is one of the best stadiums. It has character, it has history, it has class. What was missing a lot from the games is the atmosphere, and that's a part of the stadium authority's fault. This is just not seeing the trends, and people in Hawaii do not want to take criticism, and that's another part. You have to be able to take criticism, especially when it's a job that is state funded, taxpayer funded. Hawaii football needs to be put on a higher pedestal. So what I'm doing here, have nothing directly. I'm helping the program indirectly, and I'm helping the program. Let's put that right there. Put that down. I help this program more than anything. That's what I've been doing with this company. While I take a financial loss, I help to make this program, and I help to lift it up. So it's really on the UH athletic department and on their leadership now to do their part, because now the ball is definitely in their court. Now, with the announcement that the games are going to be on campus, it's on now. There's no other excuses. And let's just put this out there first. It's not going to be easy. I'll just put that. It's not going to be easy. Is it doable? Yes. Would I be excited about it? Me, when Coito? Yeah. Heck yes. If you were making me in charge of making an on-campus game, yes. I'd make it amazing. Okay, so it has to be that. It has to be a knockout. It has to be Punahou Carnival. It could be Punahou Carnival, quite frankly. It needs to be an event. I'm sorry for Manoa. I'm sorry for the people that live around UH Lab, around Punahou, around Kalaipohaku, but that area is about to get crazy on Saturday nights in the fall, and it needs to be. That's the only way for it to be successful, because ticket prices are going to have to go up, A, and the amount of revenue that you can get from the outside, and I've already said this before, and I said this in post, when it comes to this new stadium, the fans must be prioritized, and local fans and local vendors must also be prioritized. And when you prioritize fans, it doesn't just mean it doesn't mean low ticket prices. That is the opposite, right? Because obviously, if I want to pay a low ticket price, I'll go somewhere and whatever. I go to sit in the rafters and pay whatever and just like experience a very minimal amount of the game, because that's what it is. The higher you go up, the less of the game you experience. But more than that, I want to be entertained regardless of what happens on the field. Just entertain me, and I'll pay more. I'm willing to pay more. I'm willing to pay even double my season tickets for what I'm paying, which are pretty low for season ticket prices. I'm willing to pay double of those, but you better increase that experience, and I'm expecting it to be, because of just how tight that area is. I personally expect bleachers to be pushed in, a lot of bleachers, and I expect standing room to be utilized a lot. I also expect Les Murakami Stadium to be utilized, because that whole entrance, and just in my opinion, we basically need to set up the entire complex as if there's a game going on in the entire complex. I mean, I would even open up Stan Sheriff. I would open up Les Murakami. I'd put vendors in there. I'd put the game on in there so people can just watch the game in there. So maybe you don't get 20,000 people into the game or 15,000 people into the actual stadium, but you get them into that complex. Maybe watching the game, maybe enjoying vendors around Stan Sheriff, around Les Murakami. You can set up booths. How many of you would love to see a Sato family there at at the stadium, Il Gelato? You want to see the local companies. You want to see the things that you're willing to go stand in line for, right? I stood in line for the alley. I love boba, so I mean, there's got to be boba. I love boba, and if you had like boba, cookies, all the stuff that I like alone, shave ice, Manapua. I mean, all of those things, that's not hard to find vendors who do it well. I mean, do what we do well in Hawaii. If you don't know what we do well in Hawaii, you're not a local person. Maybe you need someone else to do that job. And what's that prioritizing fans means. It means understanding what I like as a local fan. And it's not that hard. It really isn't. I also, encourage people that are haven't been that vocal before. Start sending in your thoughts, your comments. The EIS, go look that up. There are some by February 7th, I believe, comments. And I want to have somebody, Chris Kinimaka or somebody from the state on the show, just so that I can talk about what kinds of comments are they soliciting from the public. Because yes, this new stadium has to be good. They have to hit it out of the park. Put me in charge, it would. But I'm not. I just go to all the stadiums and can tell you what's the best part of all of them. But in Hawaii, we are very we are handcuffed in a lot of ways by state protocol and just by the way the bureaucracy moves, unfortunately. And that's more limiting than our ability to stage a game on campus or find a place to play a game. We're limited by our creativity and our ability to expand the boundaries that have been placed upon us. That's the hardest part. Robert says, agree, we'll pay for more, but also well is not bottomless. Okay, Robert did not use any punctuation, so I can't get there everything, but Robert is Hawaii sports fans number one. He knows that. Robert's been to 6 Hawaii sports fans tours, so Robert can say whatever he wants because I love him. And Robert is so special that he has one of the few Road Warrior jackets. If you see, Fuchsia has one. Only 6 of these have been made by myself. Not that I sell these, but I purchased the elements and I put them together. By the Road Warriors, so you might have seen Fuchsia wearing hers. And speaking of what I've been doing this year, I'm gonna segue into this Road Warrior thing, because now that I've been to every Mountain West stadium, I've been to several of them several times, and I finally went to a few times. But now that starting this year, these were supposed to be for this year, and we still use them, and I still went to 3 games, outright games, and then we got something. Me and Fuchsia we're like, okay, we're gonna take something from each place, or and I was gonna do patches and add them to this jacket. She's doing pins, but I have Yosemite from going to Fresno, and that was fun. So I have this Yosemite National Park. That's super fun national park to go to. It's so cool in there. And Manitou Springs, when we went to, this is Wyoming. So Manitou Springs is actually closest to Air Force in Colorado Springs, but we went to Wyoming and we drove all the way down and we did the incline. And then I want to add this next patch, dun dun dun, New Mexico Bowl. Chee! I just got this in the mail. I love this. Oh, I also, Fuchsia, she also has one as well. But I'm gonna put this on. What a great game, the New Mexico Bowl. And I think that game's important. I think that game is more important than what Fred Lewis said in his article when he talked about Coach Graham bringing a blue chip recruit to Manoa and showing him Ching Field and saying you're going to play here. I think what we did in New Mexico and where we showed that our program was headed, because ultimately we want to be playing in the biggest bowl games and we're going to be hosting our Mountain West Championship in that stadium on campus. And if that's going to happen, it's not going to be with players that are going to be so picky as to, I don't want to play on this campus or play in the stadium, because, the goal for a lot of players is to make it to the NFL, to be successful. And also, I'm sure it doesn't hurt to have a nice on-campus atmosphere with students. That's another thing, right? If it's on campus, the students literally have to walk from the dorms, from the upper campus to the lower campus. I never even went to UH. Okay, side note as well, I was going to do my PhD in economics at UH and I didn't show up on the first day. So I'm sorry to the department chair. I know those cohorts are very small, but it just wasn't for me. So that was the closest I was going to go to UH. But that was 2007. But you should show up to your school. If you are accepted into a PhD program, definitely. But hey, when you love sports, this is what you want to do instead, talk about sports. But I could be Dr. Coito by now. Anyways, instead, I go to games and I get patches and I put them on my jacket, like that jacket. But that's going to be something that's going to be exciting, because next year, when UH goes to Corvallis, Oregon, to play Oregon State, when UH goes to Los Angeles to the Rose Bowl to play UCLA, we'll be able to add some more to those. Also, even going to Las Cruces, New Mexico, Nuevo Mexico. Albuquerque was pretty cool, and I think Las Cruces will be cool. The Painted Desert is, you can drive around there. But yeah, Namasu, we don't want to play them more than once, and we are playing them twice next year at New Mexico State. So that would be a game that we'd like to switch. But those are the kind of places, like if you look at New Mexico State, when they get like 10,000 fans a game, they were actually close to falling below the amount of, Robert just texted me to say that he's still waiting for his double XL. Sorry, Robert. See, I didn't know Robert's double XL. I thought he was an extra large, so I guess I have to fix his jacket. But what we see on campus is going to be enough. Obviously, right now, 2,500 bleachers or whatever they had right now, it wouldn't be enough. But they can push in bleachers. They can push in bleachers like we see at the Sony Open or at other events, where you have to have temporary bleachers. So that's not a big issue. For Kupuna, for people that aren't used to walking on aluminum bleachers, it'll be difficult. It'll be more difficult. But when we were in UW, we were in Washington, we were in Seattle last year for UH versus UW, and we were kind of high with Tom Kitaguchi, and he had a big group, and we sat with them at the 50, and there is bleacher seating up there, so that's kind of normal. But you're gonna have to get like a seat thingy for your okole, because it's gonna be super hard to sit on those bleachers. But outside of sitting on bleachers, I really cannot press forward more the need to have standing room and the need to just charge people to be in there. Like, I'm not even talking about the people that are going to be watching the game. I'm talking to people that are just going to be in the event, right? So if I go to, say, the US Open, right? I talked about how I went to Wimbledon. So similar, all the tennis tournaments, right? You pay to get in, you pay at grounds, and if you can get into one of the big courts, you can pay to watch a big match, right? So if you go to US Open, you can be in Arthur Ashe Stadium or Louis Armstrong Stadium. They're bigger stadiums, or you could watch the matches just by the grounds fee, right? When I went to Wimbledon, I was on court two. I was on court one. I didn't get to go on center court, but I went to center court just briefly to take a photo. But on court one, which is like their next level court. Well, what's cool about Wimbledon too is that you camp there to get tickets. So I camped actually overnight, and you queue, because everything in London and England is about queuing. Queue, queue, like to stand in a line. So they're all about queuing there, queues. So you actually get in a queue with your tent and you camp. So I did that in London, and I camped, and I got to go on court one the next day. And actually, if you don't like the number, because you get a number and you get to buy via whatever number. So if you have like a higher number, it's hard to get on center court. But you could just wait. So if somebody goes in, you just move up the line, and you just got to wait another day. But you can't leave. That's the thing too. You can only leave for more than half an hour, and they do watch. So you can't just like set up your tent and be like, peace, I'm going to a hotel or something. You actually have to stay there, and it's fun though. You talk to other people, and yeah, it's fun. It's cool, and it's really clean and nice. It's England. It's nice there. But I really do think that if UH does incorporate that sort of, like I'm saying, that feel of a tennis tournament where like you come into the ground, say, obviously the game is on Ching Field. We'll have bleachers up. We'll have areas that if you pay, you can stand from and watch. There may be platforms. There may be like just on the ground areas. So you can do that, or you can go into the baseball stadium. This is where I would really utilize the baseball stadium is in that section, just put a bunch of vendors in there in the baseball field, and then like let people sit in the stands in the baseball field and watch the game in there. So you get to be kind of a part of it, a part of the atmosphere. And if you go up to the top, you can look down, right? You can see into it. So I think it's kind of cool. I think there's a lot of really cool ideas that can be instituted into the design of this Ching Field that's going to need to accommodate. Obviously, we keep talking about this 15,000 number. Yes, that's an important number, of course, like the attendance. But it's not like a metric that the NCAA lives and dies by. Like, oh, you don't get 15,000, you're out. Like, no questions asked. We axe you from Division One. Like, that's not going to happen. That's just not going to happen. I mean, that number is like for like sustained periods, like New Mexico State. Like, okay, are you going to get it together? Are you going to get it together? Are you going to get it together? We're going to give you another year. We're going to give you another year. So it's like, they'll figure out a ways to get around that. That, you need to have sustainable revenue just as a support Division I program, because you need to have a certain amount of teams that are sponsored on the men's and women's side. You need to have a certain amount of offerings, of scholarship offerings. So those parts about being Division I are looked at even more. I'm saying, like, you can't just cut teams and stay Division I. Like that would be different. But the attendance figure that could be fudged anyways. Let's be honest. It's not like, I mean, the guy at the stadium could just be like, the SID could just be like, 15,000. Okay, whatever. I mean, they're not going to come and count every single person. So people need to worry about that. And that a lot of people with that thought that Maui might get it were kind of hung up on that with like, oh, but Maui, War Memorial can fit it and stuff. But really, it's more about what can, within the capacity, what can the school do with that? How do they leverage the small space, the beach volleyball court, which is different, the pool, which is right there, the parking garage? How do we use a la Petco Park in San Diego, and how the elements surrounding that park are used to integrate into the viewing pleasure of that stadium? And not only that, but the aesthetic. That's the cool part too. It's like nestled in between, like, the gym, the offices, which I'm sure will be turned into suites because they look right down and you don't have to go outside. So there's so much, but it's all about capturing the revenue. It's going to be all about capturing the top dollar. You have to maximize it. You have to hit it out of the park. And this is why a lot of people are nervous about UH being able to pull this off, as well as I am. I mean, I'm going to be quite honest. It's not easy to do. It takes a lot of creativity, and when you are stifled a lot in your creative approach to doing things, especially in Hawaii, especially within the government structure, bureaucracy of Hawaii, People get lazy, so or not only lazy, they stop coming up with ideas. But this is not a time to be lazy or to be idealist. This is a time to be an idealist and to think about things that no one else would ever be able to think of, and let it happen right there on your campus. So that's what's really going to be important for the success of this program, the success of the game on campus. So Stephen Tsai, the Honolulu Advertiser, he says, this is his take. First of all, he says, overall, it's a difficult situation. For the past years, the legislature either didn't approve or didn't disperse money to maintain Aloha Stadium. So that was hard on the stadium as well, for the stadium authority to be able to keep up. With the new stadium to be built on the same Halawa site, there would have been a time a temporary site would be needed anyways. The lack of maintenance funds expedited that need. True. And what he's saying is, so there's some issues here, right? It's like you have Aloha Stadium and it's dying, but then you need to keep feeding it to keep your season going, to keep the program playing there. Even if the stadium's dying, you have to just you still have to put in millions just to be able to keep it going on life support. So the point is, if you take it completely off of life support, which is what has been happening, it's just going to die a slow death. But at this point, is it better to just put in a little bit to bring it back to life, Aloha Stadium, or go in on this Ching Field situation? So what Stephen Tsai is saying, the lack of funds from the state to properly maintain Aloha Stadium expedited this process. With that being said, if people are caught off guard by the fact that the stadium said that they were not going to host any more events indefinitely, that is a failure on communication by all parties, not just the stadium authority, but a lot of the stadium authority, but by all parties. And this is just the frustrating part about the state, because it's not like the people around this that are making decisions don't make a lot of money either. They make pretty decent livings. So it's disappointing when we come to a point where it's like we reach that issue where it's like we have no reconciliation, so therefore we must make this statement and throw our main tenant off guard, throw the fans off guard by announcing this. That's wrong. It's not pono, but that's the way the stadium authority decided to do it, because they probably felt like that to push, their hand was pushed already. Stephen Tsai also says the best option would be to work out the funding, fix what can be fixed, and play games at Aloha Stadium. I kind of agree with that. That's why I'm not all in sold on this Ching Field, because it's super difficult, even though it's possible, even though they can do it. It's very difficult. I haven't given up on Aloha Stadium happening because, yes, maybe right now, maybe in its current form, it's impossible to play in. It's not impossible to play in. Or it might be difficult to have a lot of fans in it, but is it worth it to at least just put in whatever necessary repairs there are? Maybe, maybe shut down one part of the stadium, or, certain levels, right? What is it that we can do to keep playing at Aloha Stadium until the new stadium is built? And with that being said, the new stadium was always going to be built while we were still using the old stadium. That was the plan. Or if the new stadium was going to be built on the same exact footprint as the old stadium, they were going to do one piece at a time, like take out one stands at a time. So yes, there would be a transitionary period anyway, but Ching Field was not one of the options. But with that being said, the school should have had some kind of contingency anyways. But alas, they had none. And that's an issue. That's a failure of leadership. Of course, number 3, Stephen Tsai goes on, of course it would be wonderful to have on-campus games, but just remember that this is a Band-Aid proposal, which it is. And if games are played in Manoa, it won't be the same experience as a real on-campus stadium. It won't, but we could make it better. We could make it better. There will be a backless bleacher seats, yes, of course. People are going to have to bring their own. That's why I said for Kupuna especially, you're going to have to bring your own cushion to sit down. Poor sight lines. Yeah, some places will have really, I don't know about poor, but unusual sight lines probably, because it probably won't be a perfect bowl. So that's why when it comes to the stadium and premium seating, you're going to have to really have very dynamic pricing and very, very long range of different pricings, because like he's saying, the sidelines are going to be different, right? Some people won't be directly facing the stadium. Some people, just to be able to squeeze those bleachers in, some people might have to be like turned sideways and watching the game. That's just the reality of it. Smelly portable bathrooms. Yep, there are going to be tons of portables. I imagine that back row just all portables. I mean, there's going to be tons of portables. That's the only way. And you have Les Murakami and everything. As I'm saying, Les Murakami has to be open. It just has to be open the whole time. As an auxiliary, as some place where people can go into and chill. I mean, I'm even for just selling general admission. And if you can't get a seat in the GA seating, that's where you go. You go into the overflow. It's just an overflow. And you just pay people to maintain that. You don't have to open like maybe the top seating in general in Les Murakami, but you can open a lot of areas for vending, for people to walk around, for even to have a concert or something, just something different going on over there. You're just trying to get people inside. Yes, and there will be a limited number of preferred seats. That's true, what he's saying. Number 4, and he's saying, Stephen Tsai finishes with this. On the other hand, one of the many problems with Loa Stadium is the freeways don't directly lead into and out of parking lot. Not so with the lower campus. You can enter EVA bound onto the campus and exit onto H1, which is true as well. Yes, there is one gate that goes directly out of Aloha Stadium. That one gate in the back. But yeah, it is easier access. I think it can be done effectively, but it needs to be buy-in from the community because it needs to be turned into a party. I cannot even stress this more. It needs to be. And it's not like Kupuna like, oh, I don't like when people party. I just like to watch the game. But you can still watch the game, but at halftime, in breaks, around the stadium, there must be auxiliary forms of entertainment by which people who maybe are not sold on just watching the game alone, or just maybe want to cruise around, can still contribute to the game atmosphere, can still bring in revenue, buying, like I said, get local vendors, charge them, either go per booth a flat rate or charge a percentage or whatever. Or even have people buy tickets. I don't know. You can have people do that and buy tickets like it's a fair. I mean, you can make it a fair. Like put frickin' Ike Fernandez rides on the practice field. Coach Graham might not like that, but I don't know. Do they still use that practice field? I guess some teams use it, but I mean, I would make it an event. I would just make it an event. Like, don't think about how you could pull this off with the least amount. Think about how much we can put into this and how much we can get out of it. Because I think 6 to 7 times a year, it's not a difficult, it's not out of the bounds of even having it on campus for 3 years, being successful. And by being successful, I mean earning at least the same amount of revenue as you had the previous 3 years. Because if I'm looking at the previous 3 years alone, I think that they can replicate the amount of money they bring in 3 years on campus. Prior to that, with the stadium rocking and more people there, it might be difficult. But looking at where the numbers are right now, or where they were in 2019, since we couldn't have fans in 2020, it's clear that the capacity, at least the amount of people, should be able to be, they should be able to get seats, especially season ticket holders in Ching Field. But like Stephen Tsai was saying, it is not ideal. It is definitely not ideal, and Aloha Stadium might be a better option. I will say that Aloha Stadium might be a better band-aid because they won't have to do as much. Like I'm saying, like if we're gonna do this on campus, I'm all about it right now. I'm all about it. I'm all about starting right now and getting this ready for the fall, because that's what it's gonna take. I mean, this is gonna be in everything, and it should be looked at as a fundraiser. It should be looked at as 6 or 7 fundraisers, massive fundraisers a year, where not only are we trying to just pay for what we have, but we're trying to make money off of it, and it's gonna need to be an open house for me every week. Just UH is open. Invite people onto campus. Find ways for them to be entertained. Have them spend money, and I think they'll be able to, go on from there. And I think that's going to be important. So that was Steven Tsai, sharing with us a little bit from Warrior Nation. If you're on Warrior Nation, comment or send a comment. Send how you feel about this stadium situation. I think a lot of people are excited, but at the same time, I think a lot of people are skeptical because it's just been kind of the issue every year. It seems like we talk about this issue with the stadium every year and trying to upgrade, and that inevitably gets into the discussions about whether UH football is trying to be a Division I power, or are they trying to just get rid of the program? And that's a fair question to ask. When you don't spend enough time properly maintaining, properly showing love for the school, for the facility that it plays in, it's going to be difficult. Because when you look at something like Wyoming, a school like that, or you look at places like Laramie, they're fully behind, 1,000% behind their football team. And people are like, oh, this is Hawaii, right? And this University of Hawaii, yes, this is Hawaii. This is Hawaii. This is the one Division I football team in Hawaii. So it really shouldn't be that difficult, especially in a state. It's not like we're trying to sell, college lacrosse or something where you have to get people to like a sport they barely have ever watched before. No, it's football. Not only is it football, it's just any sport, but a sport that can bring in a lot of money. So that's what this needs to be. Because I don't see what other options they have. They need to act quickly. $9 million deficit. The people wouldn't have jobs, some of them, if it were on me. But they're going to have to find a way to make it all work in a very quick amount of time. Brad says, more transportation options for UH fans. Better Beaky and bus flow. Yes. So that's going to be huge. So talking about people coming in to Ching Field, they'll be able to use Beaky. They'll be able to use the bus. I believe there'll be parking at, I'm assuming, UH Lab on that big grassy field. I know some people are very worried about being able to walk, because if they have to park far, they're scared of walking, and that's legitimate. Obviously, there will be parking in the parking structure, but they're gonna have to use a lot of it for premium space. Like you're gonna have to just the real estate that is there is gonna have to be prime, right? So regardless of you can fit 15,000 people into the stadium, like some Pac-12 stadiums are 30 something thousand, right? It's not like the Pac-12 is like, oh, well, how come the Rose Bowl can fit over 100 and yours can only fit 30? They're not going to kick you out of the Pac-12 for that. They just want you to make sure that you can bring in you can make it look good. You can make it on television for the experience, to represent the conference, and that's what these games on campus are going to have to be. They are a chance for the athletic department to put on a show, to put its teams on display, not just its football team. This is a chance to bring in all the other teams, and I expect all of the student athletes to be integrated into the game day. I expect this to be all hands on deck. All the coaches are there. Everybody has a part. To be honest, I would keep most of the facilities open, make it an open house, and charge for people to be there. Like you're charging as soon as you get on. If you get into the campus, you're already in the game. Even just so that people know that, hey, when you're there at the game, you are part of, or when you're there on the campus, you are part of the game already. Whether you're walking around the tennis courts or you're by the softball field hanging out over there, maybe they can have some, they're probably going to have a bunch of porta potties set up out there. But when you go to a bunch of stadiums, major league stadiums, even professional, even college stadiums, there are little family fun events that you can do around the stadium. Sometimes the parents don't even get to watch the game. They're too busy hanging out with their kids and showing them, some cool thing that they're doing with, whatever, like a play area or a play football field or, games or something. There's so much you can do. And with it on campus, this event be on campus without the stadium authority, without Aloha Stadium feeling like it's trapping UH into having to only be, or allowing them to only be able to hold events up to whatever standard they set at Aloha Stadium and not the school. Because a lot of the issues are with the stadium authority, absolutely, and with the way the ushers are. The ushers still hound me at the games. I haven't missed a game in 15 seasons, or this past year, 15. You know that I'm there. You know what I do. You know that I stand up. You know that I have a flag. You're gonna bother me. Like that's what I mean. You cannot bother me. Like, I'm there to try and help the team. I'm there to, and like the stadium authority will do things like that, and I blame them because they're the ones that let these ushers be incompetent sometimes. And this is a shout out to Siwaki, some of our favorite ushers, Uncle, the same guys that see me there all the time. They're not the problem. It's like the ones up there, the ones who are overzealous, the ones who want to, be the first to kick somebody out or something. Like, those are issues of the stadium authority, and that UH had no control over. But some control. UH just acted powerless, I think. And that's why it looked powerless when this announcement was made. It looked totally like without any power at all, and I would use other euphemisms, but it finally exploded. The match was finally lit on the stadium situation, and this is only the beginning of it. I think Aloha Stadium and the state will still try and push UH to use the stadium, and they're going to try and, with the legislature starting, I guarantee it'll be brought up. But who within the legislature? Let's go back to that. How many people within the legislature are actual fans of this program? How many? If you're a fan of this program, a huge fan of this program, I want you to reach out to your legislator. Reach out to your state rep. Reach out to your state senator. Reach out to Governor Ige. Do you really love UH football? Are you passionate about UH football? Because if they are a public servant who have fiduciary responsibilities to the governance of our state, but also to seeing or the success of our state institutions like University of Hawaii, and within that university system, the football team, and in many ways athletics as the welcome mat to the university, and as many other schools around the country, that's what athletics is. It is that entryway into the campus. It is why some people know that the school exists in the first place. How many people would know that Austin, PA, or Oral Roberts, or even Louisiana Tech? How many people really know about these schools, right? Even bigger schools. Some people probably wouldn't know, I don't know, Baylor or some school. Like, if you weren't like super religious or lived in Texas, people would be like, oh, what is that, Baylor? And it's a giant school in Waco, Texas that has a lot of money and now wins a lot of games because of their affiliation with the Big 12 more than anything, and the money they get. But that's what college football, that's what college athletics is. It's how people orienteer themselves, and it's how people understand schools and their relationships with the rest of the country, within their conference. And Hawaii is very special in that people recognize, whether we had a school, whether we're the Rainbow Warriors, whether we had Division I football, people would know the University of Hawaii because it's in Hawaii. Because that's literally our biggest strength, is being who we are, being Hawaii. This is why I'm Hawaii sports fans. This is why I'm proud to be from Hawaii. This is why I'm proud to be Hawaiian. This is why I'm proud of whenever I go anywhere in the whole world, the whole wide world. This past year, I went to like 7 states. I went to Mexico. Even in a year where I barely traveled, I was like, oh, I still went to like a bunch of states, which is crazy. I have never met anybody who was like, where's Hawaii? Or what is that? That just doesn't happen. Whether I go to Korea, whether I go to the Dominican Republic, whether I go to Paris, everyone knows where Hawaii is. Everyone knows what Hawaii is. And that is the biggest strength of what we are. And that needs to be leveraged the most, always, is our identity and what makes us different. Because people want to come to a school that they want to be a part of something. University of Hawaii Wahine Volleyball, right? It's one of those programs that, because of who we are and because of who they establish themselves as, even when other schools like Baylor, like University of Washington, like schools that maybe were not traditional powerhouses in volleyball, when UH was winning titles in the early 80s, late 70s, UH has managed to stay up there because they have managed to build off of their tradition and of what makes them great, and is that Wahine volleyball team and the strength of the fans and their relationship with the players, which is unlike anywhere else, right? They're like princesses, right? The University of Wahine volleyball team. And that's why everybody loves Wahine. Fuchsia, when we were in Dallas at the New Mexico Bowl, she met a parent of a prospective student who loves UH volleyball and wants to go to UH. So you never know when you're going to be an ambassador, and Fuchsia got to, I think, have coffee with her when she was on her morning run before the game in Dallas. So you never know when you're wearing a UH shirt on the mainland or something, especially if you're a big fan. Sometimes you got to be a recruiter too. So make sure everybody knows what's up. If you meet somebody who has any questions about Hawaii, just tell them about how wonderful this place is. Don't tell them that we don't have a stadium yet next year. Nah. Joanna says, I'm ready to Biki. Yeah, same too. I'm ready to Biki. Bradley says, beach volleyball at a stadium would be a first, I think, for college football. Yeah. So they could do that beach. I mean, I've heard rumors they could make it like a bar, which would be cool. But it's so close to the field, but you're going to have to put a platform on it. Like, there really cannot be empty. They really have to maximize the space really, really well. And they don't really have to be, it doesn't have to be that expensive. It just has to be, like, structurally sound, right? Like, we don't want to have issues. But I think temporary space, you can really set it up to be nice. I'm excited about it. Is it going to be perfect? No, it's going to be difficult. Bradley says, we live in an amazing place. We do. Hawaii is quite the amazing place. And with that, thank you all for joining me. Another Wayne Coito show. Listen to us on podcasts, now on Pandora. If you're on Pandora, come find us on Pandora. If you're on Apple, on podcast, come find us at Apple Podcasts. If you're on Spotify, Podbean, iHeart Radio. I was thinking of like 98.5 when I think of iHeart, but iHeart Radio. Come find the Hawaii Sports Fans channel and follow us on social media. Mahalo for joining me again. I think I'm going to have a podcast up there soon. I'm on my way to Kansas City to see the Kansas City Chiefs. See you guys later. Aloha.